Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Tales from your server. In today's episode, long time problem legally served. The rude, forgetful man walked out on my job. I screamed at some teenagers today. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Long time problem legally served. Last night was the best day ever. A long time issue customer will be legally served with papers banning him, and what amounts to a restraining order where he will be fined and trespassing charges pressed if he comes back. A few recent highlights leading to this. Around a year and a half ago now, we were on strict COVID mandates. 25% capacity, 8 bar stools around the bar area. We have so many regulars that it obviously filled quickly. One platonic couple comes a few times a week, and the man usually gets there first. Problem customer loses his absolute sh*t because he can't get a bar seat, calls the woman of the pair an entitled because her seat is being saved for her. My favorite customer tells him McDonald's has good drinks, he should go there. He leaves, raging. About 2 months ago now, we've been back at full swing for a while. He comes into a full bar, but can get a seat. Bartender is busy AF, and doesn't acknowledge him fast enough for his liking. He leaves, and tells the host that bartender can F***ck off and die. Bartender pulls a no-no and texts him, saying she won't serve him again, and his reaction was inappropriate. It turns into a corporate thing, and bartender ends up crying in the office. This week, even worse. Like, death triggers worse. Another bartender's boyfriend/father to their infant relapsed and died a year ago. It was awful, and left a baby to grow up without a father. When sober, he was great. Bartender 2 asks problem how his food is, and his response is, not great because you haven't let me take you on a date yet. Bartender 2 jokingly responds, you know what happened last time I dated a customer, right? This shitstain replies, yeah, you killed him. Words cannot even describe. Thursday night, as once again my opening volume shift turns into an open close, sh*t really hits the fan. Bartender 2 and another server are having a talk about an etiquette issue, and problem butts in. Server tells him they weren't speaking to him, and he loses it again. I am a customer, you will not speak to me like that, I'll have your job. Server doesn't back down, he keeps shushing her. Problem tries to rope an off-the-clock employee into his bullsh*t but is unsuccessful. Then writes an angry note to corporate while sitting at the bar, causing a scene. Many customers checked on us after he left to make sure we were okay, and that server was in the right. Our regional director is there Friday night when server, both bartenders, and myself get there. He talks to managers and staff, and lets us know legal action is being taken against problem, and he is banned. The rude, forgetful man. Happened last week, and it's still entertaining to me how a grown man can so rapidly turn into a toddler throwing a tantrum. So, I work in a middle-range neighborhood bistro. Nothing too fancy, fairly casual, but still pretty nice. Our clientele is pretty much exclusively regulars who come back, and we're pretty busy. For further context, since about mid to late August, my home province has been mandating that we ask for proof of vaccination before allowing access to dine-in customers, which for the most part hasn't been a problem. I say, for the most part, because every once in a while, somebody like this happens. So, we have a reservation for 4 people, we set up a booth for them, and I ask for proof of vaccination and IDs for the group. First 3 folks, no problem, they go sit down. The 4th lad, though, shows me a piece of ID, but has no proof of vaccination on him. He asks me if he can still join his group, but I politely inform him that if he doesn't have proof of vaccination, I can unfortunately not let him in. He proceeds to storm off, calling me an A*** hole, as well as other several choice, and rather unflattering, epithets. I try to apologize to him, but by then he's stormed out the restaurant. One of his tablemates goes out, ostensibly to give him a ride home so he can pick up his proof of vaccination and return to join his friends. I go to the remaining two guests, apologizing for what's happened, saying how sorry I am about having to enforce the rules, but how those are the rules and all. The two are nice enough about it. When things get interesting, though, is when Mr. Grumpy Pants returns with his proof of vaccination. My coworker scans it, he joins his tablemates. I, being a professional, go over to the table and try and smooth things over. I attempt to apologize for what happened, but I barely get a word in before he cuts me off, repeatedly, insulting me and saying all sorts of awful things about me. Just a charming time overall. He then makes it clear in no uncertain terms that he demands that someone else serve him, so I tell his table it might be a wait, as my coworker is busy serving other tables, but Mr. Grumpy Pants will not speak to me any longer, so I tell my coworker to take over. Well, they wait a while, and even consider leaving because they fear that the staff might adulterate their order somehow. My coworker serves them, and it's overall rather uneventful, and the table stiffs him, because obviously, why would you tip the other guy doing his job properly for what isn't even technically my fault? Had served them several times before, and haven't seen them since, hopefully I never do again. Walked out on my job. So I work at a restaurant chain, and let's just say they loved a certain day of the week. I started the beginning of June, and it was my first restaurant job, so the hiring manager wanted me to be a hostess. The main goal was to give me a general understanding of how the restaurant operates, table numbers, and the steps of service. I was the only host. I didn't get trained at all, I just had to learn. In spite of that, I was a good hostess, and all of the servers seemed to enjoy me. Never had any complaints or anything like that, and rotation was always even. Fast forward a few months in, and I begged to go onto the floor. Finally, they let me train. I start getting one shift a week. Tuesday night. It was a cursed day, and I swear I never made more than $40 or $50. They promised me they were gonna hire more hosts and get me off the host stand. I consistently asked for more hours on the floor every week, and I was promised them, but they never followed through. I asked if it was because of my service, and the GM literally told me he wants me on the floor, and that he loves when I serve. No constructive criticism to give me. A month goes by and I walk into a new server training. But not just one, too. I ask, did they hire any hosts? Nope. They wanted to be servers, so they got hired on as that. So no hosts, and now I have no serving shifts. The new people got them. I even got to know them, and neither had any restaurant experience, yet they didn't have to work their way up like me. Now 3 weeks ago they finally hired 2 new hosts. I train them and promised that after they're trained, I'll be on the floor and no more hosting shifts. Fine. Done deal. I can do that. I come in on this past Tuesday for my DIFT and look at next week's schedule. They were training both hosts to serve that week. I had no serving shifts. At that point I was furious, but clocked in and collected myself at the host stand. This was my 8th day working in a row. 4 out of those 8 days were doubles. I was exhausted and fuming about how the new hosts were put on the floor so fast with no previous serving/restaurant experience. I put in 5 months for them and didn't get jack. I stepped off the host stand for a few minutes so I could call my parents to get a ride home after I was done with my shift. Cue the GM walking into the kitchen and immediately just lays into me about being on my phone. I already asked our shift lead to watch the door for me, it was covered. He didn't even let me explain why I was on my phone. At that point I realized enough was enough. I dealt with a hostile work environment for 5 months, just dealing with the bullsh*t, because the serving money was great, and would be worth it in the end if they just schedule me on the floor. But alas, they didn't give a sh*t about putting me on the floor. I realized in that moment that they were only using me for a position that could not be filled because they couldn't retain staff. They were dangling serving like a carrot over my head to keep the only hostess they had. So I looked at my manager and just laughed. Then I grabbed my stuff, paid for an Uber, and quit on the spot. I waited outside the front doors and watched my manager have to host for 20 minutes until my Uber got there. Hopefully my next restaurant will actually give me a chance. I screamed at some teenagers today. First post/mobile formatting apologies. My restaurant has next to no employees currently, so we're takeout only for the time being. Which is cool with me. I stand behind a counter by myself all day taking phone orders and walk-ins, etc. Most people are great and chill, plus I make decent hourly with tips still, so it ain't so heck. I pride myself on my composure, and I'm a calm, collected person in general, but for 8 seconds today that all changed. These 3 teenagers come in and had that arrogance while they ordered that I'm fairly used to with the very old and very young, but they weren't being mean or giving any cause for concern. They order and sit on the bench opposite my counter and wait, talking amongst themselves and dropping the occasional F-bomb loudly, but there weren't any children around, so I didn't really care. A few minutes go by and another couple teenagers come in. It's not uncommon for the high school students a few blocks away to pop over to pick up lunch, which is probably where their issues started. It happened pretty fast, and I'm fuzzy on their wording, but basically the bench teens started taunting the 2 teens that were at the counter behind a very sweet and understanding lady I was working with. One thing led to another, and they started getting up in each other's faces yelling very loudly. I'm not sure what demon possessed me, but I walked right between the group and screamed at the top of my lungs, "We're not gonna do this sh*** here. Take it the F*** outside. Now." Which prompted everyone in the building, which were 2 people waiting for their orders in the lobby, for maintenance men fixing a cooler, our cook, the poor soul that's on his 2nd day of training, and my GM to quickly gather round the spectacle. My GM walks beside me and tells me to go in the back, as if he's ushering a well-trained bear back into its cage after a long show, and handled it from there. I'm not really wanting to get into the nitty-gritty details, but the poor soul that was training tried to take the lady who I'd been working with before stuff hit the fan's order, and then came to get me to ask questions of the process, and I just went back out and helped the lady, trying to be sweet and mostly calm, but still shaking from adrenaline. My GM managed to get them outside at that point, and the cop was just pulling in. It gets boring from there. Cops came, myself and the 2 people in the lobby had to give statements. We comped their food for having to be part of these shenanigans on a Wednesday afternoon and being so understanding. The sweet lady slid me a $10 bill across the counter once I finally finished taking her order. My GM thanked me for jumping in, but told me if they go to corporate I'll probably be fired because I didn't follow protocol by not getting a manager immediately, and cursing in front of customers is frowned upon. Especially when they're minors. A bit longer of a read than I intended, but thanks if you've made it this far. Looking back, I could have certainly handled it better. What are your thoughts?